Jews phobia, is that really increasing in the world? That debate coming up on the other side. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, anti-Semitism in different parts of the world appears to be only on the rise. These videos on your screens are a testament to the atrocities being faced by the Jews. The latest incidents reported from Russia. Airports, public vehicles, hotels, these videos show how pro-Palestine supporters went on the hunt for Israeli citizens. An anti-Israel mob stormed the main airport in Russia's Dagestan region, which is dominated by Muslim population, ostensibly to protest the arrival of a flight from Tel Aviv. The protesters, many of them chanting Allahu Akbar, broke through the doors and barriers, with some running onto the runway in an attempt to confront Jewish passengers aboard a flight from Israel. Listen in. Allahu Akbar! As these men went on to check passports of each and every passenger, the airport security stood as mute spectators as they were clearly outnumbered by the furious mob. Just watch how all of this unfolded. It just didn't stop there. Let's now show you this video of how a bus ferrying Israelis was blocked and hounded by the angry mob. The fear on the faces of the passengers was visible. Not just men and women, but there were little children terrorized by this unruly mob. Let's now show you these videos from Nalchik region in Russia again, where a Jewish center was set on fire. Protesters also besieged a hotel in Dagestani city, searching rooms for Jewish refugees. Take a look at the anti-Jew mob issuing threats to an Israeli citizen.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Is anti-Semitism on the rise? That's what we want to debate tonight. And joining me tonight, Bob Blackman, Member of Parliament from UK. Also joining me tonight, Shahar Azani, author and diplomat. Dr. Dalal Irikat, Assistant Professor at the Arab American University, Palestine. But my first question goes to Thomas Rose, former senior advisor and chief strategist to the US Vice President and former publisher and CEO of the Jerusalem Post. And Mr. Thomas Rose, my question to you is, are we looking at a situation where anti-Semitism is on the rise? And how is this going to pan out over the next few weeks as you see it?
Well, Navika, I think that the video you've just shown, the demonstration you've just shown, shows that anti-Semitism, the world's oldest hatred, in its purest, most primeval form, has reemerged. The mask has been ripped off, and it simply demonstrates again this historical pattern. The greater the crimes against the Jews, the greater the hatred that's directed toward them. Anybody who doubts that simply has to ask, why is this going on now? What would have happened had there been no 10/7 massacre? Israel wouldn't be back in Gaza. Vasily Grossman, the very famous, fabulous Soviet writer who chronicled the Great Patriotic War, the Second World War against Nazi Germany, in his book Blood and Fate, had a very famous quote: "Tell me of the crimes you accuse the Jews of, and I will show you the crimes the accusers are guilty of." And there's only one explanation for this. Has nothing to do with the Palestinians, has nothing to do with civilian aid or humanitarian aid to Gaza. It is pure, unalloyed, primeval hatred of a barbaric, savage kind that we thought we had escaped from 1,000 years ago.
Well, let me also ask Mr. Bob Blackman. Mr. Bob Blackman, is this really heralding a position where heads of states will have to take a call? Because the scenes that we've seen in Russia, if they spiral into more such incidents across the world, Jews, Israeli citizens can be on target.
Well, clearly we're in the position now where we've had the biggest loss of Jewish life in a day since the Holocaust. So Jewish people have been under pressure incredibly across the world for a long time. And bizarrely, the position in the United Kingdom is that anti-Semitism and reports of anti-Semitism have increased ninefold since Israel was attacked by the terrorists. So we need to be clear here that the Israelis are on the receiving end of this, yet hatred of Jews across the world seems to be increasing. It is clearly absolutely unacceptable. It's unacceptable, the scenes we've seen in Russia. It's unacceptable in any country that people should be hounded and hunted because of their religion and their background. This is an absolute disgrace, and leaders across the world are going to have to ban these extremists. If people are not going to accept people because of their religion, then frankly, they're a disgrace to their country. And indeed, in the United Kingdom, we're now investigating ways whereby we can be more stringent against those that commit anti-Semitic attacks, and indeed attacks on any people of any religion, because the reality is that people should be free to participate in their religion and free to live their lives in peace and harmony. One of the problems that Jewish people often have is that people say they're more identifiable because of either the clothes they wear or their mode of dress or their mode of hair and so on, which makes them a target, unfortunately, for people that hate. And this world should have no place for people that hate.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Dalal Irikat. The question here is, Mr. Bob Blackman says 900% increase in anti-Semitism displays, in the UK alone. As far as the US is concerned, the figure is somewhere around 400%. This can't be isolated. The question today is, in the name of liberalism, in the name of, taking positions, the question is one community going to bear the brunt? Are these cases going to be on the rise? And what are we looking at in the days and weeks to come?
Well, thank you, Navika. You have invited me to a debate where in your videos you have showed one side of the story. You haven't presented the other narrative. I am here to tell you, as a Palestinian, that our problem is not with the Jews. Our problem is with the Israeli state terror and with the Israeli far-right government. What the Palestinian people had been enduring for 75 years is nothing but an Israeli prolonged military occupation, which the humanity should not tolerate. Please stop labeling what we have as a Jewish, Muslim, or Christian issue. The fact that some people, some conscious people, are still labeling citizens and nationals based on the religion that we did not choose in the first place is very problematic in 2023. As an educator, as a professor of diplomacy, and as a mother who is raising children of the world, citizens of the world, I raise my kids to respect any human being, no matter what their religion is, what their ideology is, what their geographical background or color is, because it's about the humanity. It's about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that we are teaching to our kids and to the new generations, where every human is equal. The 2.2 million civilians living in Gaza under the Israeli fire, under the Israeli missiles, are human beings who were deprived for the past 16 years because of the Israeli decision makers of water, of food, of air, of the rights of mobility, of education, of decent, human basic needs. What the Palestinian people have been enduring for the past 75 years, the atrocities and the war crimes and the apartheid and the confiscations of lands and the settler terror that we are still witnessing in the 21st century is something that humanity should not tolerate. And let me send a message to the Jewish people. And I have many Jewish friends in my life, I refuse to label what is going on to be a Jewish Arab or a Jewish something, a conflict. This is a conflict over land, over resources, over interests. This is an interest-based scenario that we are witnessing. It is not Hamas that Israel is targeting. It is not Gaza that Israel is targeting. The thing is, they want to annex Gaza, and they had issued military eviction orders to evacuate Gaza. This is not something that we are inventing. This has been ordered by Netanyahu and his military officers. It has been documented. They want to evacuate the Strip. They want to send the Palestinians away, and they want to translate the Balfour Declaration.
Well, Dr. Dalal, while that may be absolutely true, Dr. Dalal, while that issue has been going on for a while, but then what explains 7th of October?
Thank you very much. The thing, it did not start on the 7th of October. Those people, the 2.2 million Palestinians living in Gaza, were totally besieged in a deadly blockade, deprived from the basic rights. And
why were they besieged?
What you are trying, please don't.
No.
Yes,
you don't get to monopolize. Mr. Azani hasn't even spoken yet. You don't get to monopolize this entire conversation. Why was there a blockade of Gaza? Why? There wasn't after Israel left in 2005. If you start firing rockets at Israel, you're going to be blockaded. If you attempt to destroy all the Jews in Israel like you did on 10/7, you will be attacked.
Stop labeling it by the religion. We should be civilized enough to look at each other as equal human beings. It's about humanity.
You should be civilized enough to condemn jihadist, genocidal murderers
stop to the genocide and to the war crimes of the Israeli military occupation.
Nursing home patients in their beds, who abduct infants, who murder children.
Absolutely. And Shahar Azani, I want to ask you, should there not be condemnation of the manner in which you see those visuals of even children, babies literally being terrorized from the scenes that are coming from Russia? Right now, I'm not even talking about Israel and Hamas or Palestine. I'm talking about what's happening in Russia. And to justify that on the basis of the long-standing feud. Is it all right?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I would like to take this moment just to correct the facts so that all of our viewers understand what we're talking about. Hamas's Article 7 of the Charter of Hamas concludes with the following quotation: "The day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews, when the Jew will hide behind stones and trees. The stones and trees will say, 'Oh Muslim, oh servant of God, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.'" On October 7th, Hamas did just that. It didn't perpetrate anything Palestinian. It perpetrated a slaughter, a butcher, massacre, and one of the most barbaric and cruel attacks against Jews, including shoving babies into the ovens, beheading babies, raping girls, beheading innocent women.
Let me read out, Dr. Dalal. Let me read out, Dr. Dalal, what Hamas's 1988 covenant says. I'm reading out from there. It says the day that enemies usurp part of Muslim land, jihad becomes the individual duty of every Muslim. In face of the Jews' usurpation of Palestine, it is compulsory that the banner of jihad be raised. To do this requires the diffusion of Islamic consciousness amongst the masses. Is this not about religion?
In 2023, you are converting what we are facing into a religious conflict.
No.
Navika, may I?
Yes,
may I
please. Yes, Mr. Azani.
The most important thing to remember here that Hamas, barbaric Nazi Hamas, is a stain on the soul of humanity. And if any Palestinian wants to be honest on any level, they should be the first ones to denounce what Hamas has done, which is one of the most shameful acts on the stage of humanity to be remembered for perpetuity. This is a shame that the Palestinians will have to carry for many more years to come. And I just want to make it clear for everyone, with regards to what we're seeing on Dagestan, with regards to the rise of 400% anti-Semitism on college campuses in the US, with regards to what we're seeing Jewish students chased at Cooper Union, Columbia, NYU, and only yesterday, somebody labeling themselves Hamas soldier, which to me is just somebody who chases octogenarians and tries to kill them, threatening Jews on campus. This raises a lot of concern for the future of our societies, because if this is the kind of a moral haze that our younger generation is experiencing at this time, what are we to expect in the future? So this is why we have to fight, and fight now. And I would expect nothing less of every decent, justice-loving, humanity-loving human being to stand against the barbarism of this vile filth of an organization.
Well, so let me ask you, Dr. Dalal. Dr. Dalal.
We should also remember that many Jewish people in Israel came from Russia and the Soviet Empire because they were being subject to pogroms in the Soviet Empire. So there are many citizens of Israel who had to flee their homes to go to Israel, to go to a land of peace and harmony. And so the reality is that one of the reasons why you're seeing this terrible hatred by the Russians against the Jews is just a continuation of what was going on that forced them to flee in the first place.
Well, okay, Dr. Dalal.
Listen,
Dr. Dalal, I'm only asking you, can you just condemn, like all of us would, any humanitarian losses that have happened to people who are not really involved in a war, whether it is women.
Of course, listen, Navika, don't waste your time. Of course, I condemn any violence against any human being. The Palestinians have been suffering from state-organized terror by Israel for 75 years. I want to hear some condemnation for Netanyahu and his far-right government. Again, my message to you and to the audiences. I am a Palestinian. I live in Palestine. Don't speak on my behalf. Please don't interrupt me and don't speak on my behalf.
But ma'am, you just justified. What happened in Russia. And my question is...
Of course not. I am a Palestinian. Allow me to speak on behalf of my people. Okay. We don't have a problem with the Jews. We see the Jewish people as a human being. The problem is with the state
with the Jews. Then why is Hamas so popular? Why was Hamas elected? Why did the 1,500 terrorists who entered? No, you've spoken a lot. The 1,500 terrorists who murdered on 10/7. It was thousands upon thousands of Gazan civilians who followed them in after the massacre, after the jihadists. To finish the job, to rob, to loot. Why are millions now marching in the streets in cities across the country?
Navika, please, you were giving me the
a freedom struggle cannot be fought on the dead bodies of civilians, of women and children, and a manner in which can only be likened to how terrorists would behave, ma'am. That is the only point I'm making. A child lost, one child lost or one civilian lost, this side or that side is one too many, As far as civilians are concerned, everybody has a right to fight their wars, but it cannot be on the dead bodies of civilians. It cannot be on the dead bodies of women and children. And that is all there is to it, ma'am. The only point I would want to make at this stage is, well, Everybody has a right to their opinions, certainly so across the world. But let's not justify violence and intimidation and hate just to say that this is a battle for freedom of a land. Well, we leave it at that. At the same time, I would want to say any life lost of a civilian which is not involved in this quest for freedom, well, it is something that must be condemned in unequivocal terms wherever it happens. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on this big debate on Jewish phobia. Where is this going to end? We don't know. We'll keep watching.